Mike, tell us a bit about Phoenix Developments. Welcome here today on Think Property Club.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me. Mike Day with Phoenix Homes and Developments. My website is Phoenix Developments. We are, I guess, a property development or consultant to clients who are looking for property. We'll source sites. I myself really want to, develop sites just like you and Amy, Jason. So our focus is to find really high-end sites in the Sutherland Shire area, a community to which I live in and that I want to be part of, that I want to help and improve.
Yeah.
And,
so what about the accent there, Mike? I can spot a bit of an accent there. Tell us a bit about Mike and what got you into this. I'm interested.
Yeah. So I started my real estate journey probably back in 2002, 2003.
And where'd you grow up? And
so I'm from Calgary, Alberta, right at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. Very wintry place for about...
In Canada?
Canada, yeah. Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So, nice wintry place, 6-8 months of the year. There's snow on the ground, and we love to ski and play ice hockey.
And what about your family? Was your dad into? What's your dad and mum into, or what's the history behind the Day family?
Yeah, so my mom was a nurse, so always very attentive. So that's in my nature as well with my clients and so on and so forth. My dad was the president of a valve manufacturing company in the oil and gas industry. So
is that big in Canada? Oil and gas?
Huge. It's one of the main industries. Well, it's the main industry in Alberta, the province to which I come from. So massive turnover. I got my start with that company. I then came to Australia with a different company, a Fortune 500 company. My specialty there was contract management, project management, and business development. So a very highly geared sales background. Working with the likes of Shell, ExxonMobil, Chevron, Caltex, all your really big, huge players, managing their portfolios, which is millions of dollars.
And you've had those type of jobs for a long time now, right?
Yeah, over 15 years.
Yeah.
So,
you must enjoy it, the management side of it and the responsibility.
Yeah, the sales process is absolutely fantastic. It's one of my most favorite things. Development of the relationship. Everything really crosses over into property. It's the development of that relationship up front with your clients, understanding their needs, developing a plan, delivering a product, and making sure you have the service orientation there with them. So.
And back in Canada, what was it? Where was your first taste of property? When did you start going, hey, I really like property as well? You've got obviously the talents in what you do in your day job there, your Mike Day job.
Yeah.
But tell us about that, because I remember you were telling me before about when you first started getting active in property, and obviously you come to Australia now, so you had to relearn the property market here. But tell us a bit about your achievements, what you loved about it.
Yeah, so my first sort of taste was with like a really big, I think it was about 70 or 80 townhouse developments. We were looking at sort of just, purchasing our first home, but I got wrapped up with the builder who got the award, and I did a bit of work for them, helping clients choose materials and things like that. And that actually gave me a little bit of understanding of how the build process works, and then that it turned out that through that experience, that gave me a little bit of cash to put a deposit down on one of the properties in that development. So that kind of was like, wow, this is giving me some potential. I leveraged that, and then I bought an infill lot, and then I hired an architect, a landscape architect, all the different professionals. We built a custom home. We built the property. Within 9 months, it was completed. We put it on the market. It sold within 5 hours.
Yeah. And you enjoy that process. I mean, naturally in your job, I could see that there'd be a lot of different components and management and responsibility, right? And in this industry, I found that that's what I love. I love responsibility, and I love I love the numbers. And I've even spoken to Amy, and she said to me, one thing about Mike is he loves the detail.
Absolutely. And when you do these kind of things, you really need to be absorbed in the detail, and especially around project management, because when you're managing a project, you need to understand every aspect of the project. And so that when you're sitting in front of a client and you're making promises, you can believe in those promises. You know what you're delivering. You know what your deliverables are. You know how to deliver it, and you've mitigated all the risks for them. So you can talk about, here's the things we're doing to mitigate risk. Here's how we're going to deliver on time.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the, I think it's the same way that I look at this industry, very much about there are all these type of different components to it. And it's really the job of being in any type of property is to manage it in the right way, to make sure that you're able to get that team together on a regular basis. It's no different from running a company to running a development site. It's really just a business acumen to it, right? Oh, your mic is off. There we go. We're back.
Are we good?
Should be okay. Yeah, it was a bit staticky, but it should be good. Let's keep going there. Yeah.
So what we've done here is I'm treating like we are a business now, and what I'm doing is I've taken the time to now set up my company here in Australia. We're now a company. Before in Canada, I was just doing everything on my own. I took that custom house that we built, and then I did a big reno, and 3 months later we produced another 30% or 40% of uplift there.
And you understand that uplift comes out of management and costing and the right team and knowing what the market wants, right? Obviously you've had success in that.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't, that there's something to that, right?
Absolutely. And it really, you do have to understand your market and where you're targeting and what the cycle is in that market, because that's really where we got a lot of our upswing. And I made some good decisions at the right time. You know, the custom home we built, that was in a large subdivision project where we were in phase 1, and I went and spoke to the builder about the phase and the cycles, so I knew exactly when to buy, so that I knew exactly when I could see and realize the biggest uplift once the suburb started getting grass and trees and people were coming in and everything was getting built out. By the time I finished my build, the suburb was basically ready to sort of go, and it was the perfect time. I didn't buy in phase 1. I didn't buy in phase 4. I bought sort of at the end of phase 2. You paid just a tiny bit more, but you capitalized more on a very quick turnaround with some huge uplift. I had a 40% uplift in 9 months from the purchase price I paid to what we sold for, and it sold in 5 hours.
Yeah, that's great. So over here, so in Australia, where have you decided that you've been based now in Australia?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that suburb and what you like about it.
So coming to Australia, everything is very different than Canada. We have a lot more legislation here. And in regards to, you know, New South Wales is one of the most highly legislated states, you know, in the world and in Australia. So the councils are very, you know, they're very meticulous. So what you have, so I've now come here. I was doing everything in my own name before, very you know, personal, using my own money. Now we're here. We're a business, and what I've done is I've treated it just like I manage projects and the business that I work in a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah. Okay? So it's interesting what you just said there. I picked up on that. And I'm remembering my journey of what I went through. So when you decide this is the area you're going to work in, instead of just looking around first off the properties and what's going on here, which is something you've got to take attention to, but you've kind of gone, hang on, I'm going to study the council first to see how do they work. Because if I can't get on with this council, I don't want to be doing stuff here. And that's really interesting that you've looked at that factor.
Absolutely. So I even took it a step back, and I actually pulled some statistics off the web and looked at what are the top 5 councils in the Sydney area. Who has the most development applications? Who has the most highest value of development application value, right? So I've now chosen my area as the Sutherland Shire. it's
What
the
do they call it?
community.
God's country?
Yeah, absolutely.
You hear that every day.
Down here, so and people here are just love it, and they're very loyal, and everyone you'll talk to someone in Sydney and they'll be like, oh, you're from the Shire, right?
Yeah, that's it. The God's country.
Yeah, God's country, right?
Where does that exist? Yeah.
And everyone in Sydney knows that people who come to the Shire, they stay in the Shire. They're very, very loyal. They love it here. So when people grow up here and they stay here, people who then grow up here downsize here, and they don't leave the community. They stay here because they're comfortable.
So there must be always a need for product then, right?
Absolutely. So some of the other things that I do, even before we start just looking through the suburb, was digging into what we want to see as far as statistics. So I looked at what New South Wales expectations are for building to see if there's a housing shortage. There absolutely is. The construction industry is on a bit of a downturn. This year alone in Sydney or in New South Wales, they're expecting that at least 6,500 dwellings need to be built. And then you look at the percentage of the development applications and of the population growth in my area, and I've figured out that there's got to be at least 2,000 to 3,000, like maybe 1,500 to 2,000 of those dwellings need to be here in my area.
Yeah.
So,
and is the council, what about the council? So obviously there's one side of it that you've got the area that needs more population growth happening. Because I know some of the areas, like I grew up in Pittwater Council, and it's a bit of a hard council to deal with. So you can only really do developments in the pockets that they want you to be doing it, right? And so it's it's a little bit harder, but it can be done. Some amazing things have happened down in the Pittwater Shire where I grew up. And it's funny, when I look at Cronulla, and the Sutherland Shire, people might know Cronulla or some of the other things. What are the actual suburbs that you found that you see there's a need for development? What are the top ones down there? Obviously, Cronulla is a bit bigger, but are there any particular suburbs that you kind of really like?
Absolutely. So, I mean, Cronulla is certainly one of them, and I'm looking at a deal there right now. They sort of split Cronulla into South Cronulla and North Cronulla, and North Cronulla hasn't really seen a lot of development, and it's just sort of starting up. And I was actually meeting with a very prominent architect in the area yesterday who does a lot of development in Cronulla and the Sutherland Shire Beaches area of, Bernier, Woolooware, Caringbah South. Those are the sort of main type suburbs, and a little bit in the higher end. And he said, look, North Cronulla is up and coming. We won't be groundbreakers if we do this project. It will be because there's a few things happening, but it's not as much as what we're.
What about the buy-in? So is it more affordable?
The more affordable suburbs would be more like Caringbah South, and then if you're still looking for that high-end sort of luxury, you're more Woolooware type area. Cronulla is going to be your real high-end. I was talking to some agents over the course of last week. There's some apartment blocks that are selling for $20,000 per square meter.
Yeah.
So they're going for $3 million. There's a penthouse that just sold for $7 million.
And, I like that demographic mix. Even when I look at stuff as well, areas that's pretty similar to an area that I've looked at many times. I like when you've got a middle and you've got a very high end. And even though you might not be operating in the total high end, the high end is there, and that will push growth through. It still gives a big income potential there in that area. And anywhere where you're going to have those type of developments by is going to be important. And I know, Mike, that you've been totally absorbed with this area. Like, you live and breathe. Every day you see a sale, you're like onto it. Every day you see a new builder going in, you're kind of finding out what that builder does. You've got a list of architects, you've got your town planners. I mean, that's really the team. And how important have they been as your A team, that those team of people around you?
It's the most critical factor in doing development. So the way I start, Jason, is I took and drove every suburb all the way from Kirrawee all the way over to Cronulla, and that took me a few days. I took it in like a grid type approach where I just drive up and down every street. Now, the reason for the manual type process is because, you can use RP data, you can use all these other type of algorithms, but it's going to throw in all the old crappy houses in the suburb, and it's going to really skew your results. So the reason I drive every street is because I want to see everything that's brand new, something that's just been built, who's building, and this is where we get our proven track record. Who's doing the building? How many times are you going to see the same builder? Then you go to you write down all the addresses. Now you can start coming up with, what's being built, who's doing the building, what's on the market, what's being sold, how much is it being sold for. So now you can come up with your gross.
So you're really placing targets around the area, right? By doing that.
You're seeing who's selling these places. So now it's like, who are the agents? And then from there, you can look on the planning website of the council. You can get the architect. You can get your hydraulic engineers. And then from there, you start interviewing people. So I've interviewed over a dozen architects. I've interviewed 2 dozen, 3 dozen agents. I've talked with a half a dozen builders.
So is that your process? When I know that you do 2 things, like you do your own developments, but another big factor of what you're doing is you're partnering with investors out there. So when you do that, your process is to obviously target areas where there's a good return. So by you going up and down streets and looking at different stuff, you're kind of seeing where stuff was a bit quiet or a bit boring. And then you're seeing like pockets that, hey, these are working. There's something popular about that. But your process, when you work with an investor, right? So let's talk a bit about that. When you find a thing and you partner with an investor to come along and you work together, you use the skills of Phoenix Developments to kind of work with them. Yeah. What is that process of what you give to that investor? What's the analysis process that you do? So, and who are the people that you get involved in that analysis process?
Yeah. So look, the A team is absolutely critical in through that process. And as I was just saying, once you're out there talking to all these people, you go and talk to a builder and you ask him for 5 references, or who are the people that they work with? What are the architects? Who are the hydraulic engineers? Who are his team that he works with? And what you'll start finding is that all the builders and all the architects will all start giving you the same types of names. And you're now honing in on the A team, and that's the team that I've developed. So in taking a few months of doing such critical analysis and then research to finding that A team, now we can go in and approach a client and say, I've got the best team in the Shire. They build developments 7 days a week. They're busy. They're involved in dozens of projects. They've been involved in hundreds over the last 10 plus years. And from there, you've got a very accurate base of information. So you can approach your builders and you can get build costs. You can approach your agents and get valuation costs on and guidance through to what your gross realized values are going to be.
So tell us a bit about that, the values of and what aligns with your values of Phoenix Development. Obviously, I noticed that just through talking to you and we've known each other now for, I don't know, professionally we've known each other for about at least a year, because you and I are working on developments and that together, going through that process together. But also, I mean, every company has its values. I know personally that you're very committed to making sure that everything is double checked. And then when you have a project on, you really hold people to the accountability. So not only do you want to have those people in there, but you make sure you get the reports on time. You make sure that things are double checked.
And that's really what my career has been is project management. So holding people accountable, making sure you're following up, constantly setting deadlines and achieving those deadlines, and being able to provide those reports to your clients who are asking you to source properties, or that you're doing it for your joint venture partner and yourself as the developer. It's that service level, as you and I have always talked about. It's sometimes it's more about the service, and the service that we can provide is that we give timely responses. Our JV partners feel respected. Our clients are getting what their needs met. If we're just sourcing properties for them, and you've set a price in order to give them your time. And these are the kind of discussions that we're having. But absolutely, Jason. I've developed the best team in the Shire through, making sure and paying attention to that detail. And what's really important and what I've really found is that giving them your time, they'll give you time. So if you say, can I meet with you? I want to come say hello. They'll sit and spend an hour with you and talk you through some of their processes and give you guidance and share other names of professionals that you're going to need.
And on top of that, I see that the amount of due diligence and the backward type of research that you've done, and you've taken the effort to go in and analyze different things, and you've actually analyzed the different work that you've done. You're actually coming from a very different angle from someone that possibly would waste their time. You're coming from an angle of, hey, I know what you've done. Let's talk about how, not about what we're doing, but how could we be working together? Because you'll never just get one quote from one person, because that's just not servicing it. And you wouldn't do that in your industry either, would you?
No, you always get 3 or 4 quotes so that you can look at having a chat with the person that you feel the most rapport with or has the best price, and then start talking terms, or you want to make sure that you can say, well, I've got quotes from 3 others. He's offering me this. Can you offer me the same? And sort of start developing that rapport.
Yeah, that's important. And so when you work with investors, how does that normally work with Phoenix Developments? How do they get in contact with you? And what's the type of processes? I mean, because obviously you're very good at obviously the area, knowing the right type of products that are going to work or not work. I know you're pretty honest too. So if you think something's not going to work, you're going to be pretty blunt and say, look, this product's not in demand. Is that true too? Does that honesty thing come out?
Absolutely. I was at an owner's house on Sunday, and we had a good 3-hour sort of meeting, and we went.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that story. How does that work? Because that's something that you've been able to develop too. Instead of just going in the front door everywhere, you've got a lot of backdoor contacts now, right? The buyer's agents, and you've got the off the market properties and that. So, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, look, the way this one came about is more, because I've now interviewed so many agents and everyone knows what I'm looking for, what I'm hunting for. They're bringing things to me before they even hit the markets now, and so you can start developing that rapport and talking between the agent. And then what ended up happening was the agent said, look, why don't you go meet up with the owner and sit and have a chat? Because it wasn't just, I want to buy your property, let's negotiate this through the agent. It was, we were talking about multiple scenarios. I might put an option on your property, and will you give me some time to get the TA? He wanted to understand how we could look at a straight purchase. He also wanted to understand how a joint venture would work. So, we were there and we went through all the scenarios, and the owner, like that, and that's the value to which we can bring. So we talk about the whole process, and you just walk them through the whole thing. And then at the end of the day, just yesterday, we ended up settling on just a straight sale. He wants to go forward in that manner. So
yeah. So right now, I mean, one of the things that Phoenix can also do is, I mean, you've got the team ready, you know the areas, you know the process, you can do development applications for people, you can do reviews, you can even help with that whole broad thing. And I think that's really important as a company to be able to set something up where you say, look, I'm happy to get investors along, and if you're interested, come and chat to me, tell me what equity base you have, and maybe we can work together, right? But on the other side of things, you can say, hey, because you've done all this team and all this research, you've got this team of people where you can offer any type of service along. And and if we're working with you, you've got the right people, right? Because you know the ones that weren't any good as well, right? Yeah,
no, exactly. When you start going out to multiple people and you don't just stop at going, okay, I was happy with that. You can actually find people that are better than the one you spoke to, and then you find people that are worse, and then you know what good looks like.
And this is the difference, the wisdom to know through all your background research, the wisdom to know who to go with and who not to go with. I mean, that's the hardest thing people have in this industry, about who do I pick, but this guy was cheaper than that person. But through your research of seeing their background results of what they've done, you're able to pick the right team to work with. And it's almost like, you've been doing this for over a year now. So of this analysis of this one pocket of area of Sydney, but you could also do other pockets because the same type of thing comes into it, right? But I think the most important thing is to be able to know the council. So what are the most important things? You've got to know the council back to front. What else are the other things that you think that you've developed this importance? So, council, who else?
Understanding the council and the DCP is critical because you need to understand the different zones that operate within the council, so that you can understand when you go to a site what it's going to look at yielding on a potential. So R3 is very different to R2 because in an R2 site in this council, we have a 60-40 rule. So I can only put 2-story on the front 60% in an R2 zone. So that means you have to have villas in the back, and you need to make sure your FSR ratios will accommodate that to be able to get the number of units you want on there to be able to get the yield that you need. So these are the kind of things that, like, a client coming to look for a property for you to source, they're not going to have all that intimate knowledge, and you're going to be able to walk through and say, no, that's no good. In the meeting on Sunday that I had, the owner had already started to try and develop this project on his own, and they've sort of run into a wall. They spent $30,000 on architecturals on 4 units, but at 4 units, it's about a $300,000 loss. And I walked him through the whole process and why that would be. And he's like, and I said, you really need to get that 5th unit on there. And here's what we do. And he had an underground car park with 4 units. Even 4 units without the car park wasn't going to work. And
we can laugh at it, but at the end of the day, the only reason that we can know this is because we've done that background research to know that has never worked, or, you know.
So absolutely. So the second part to that is the team. That is the most critical, because now you've gone out and visited a half a dozen builders, and that's really your critical part. So I was chatting with a builder just yesterday, and he said, look, Mike, you know, when you go and have your sort of kickoff on your project, can I come to that meeting with you? Because I'd like to be able to sit with your town planner and your architect and make sure that what you guys are thinking is feasible and possible. And I'm like, that's a great idea, because now we can have like a little kickoff meeting. The architect, in this case, was very prominent in Cronulla on the high end of things. And the builder was not concerned, but he was just like, look, I know that architect, and he's amazing, and he has one of the best names in the industry. But I think we need to just make sure what we're going to design can be built, and it'd be great if I could be involved in that.
And so profitable, that's important. I'm relating to you on that. You need a good architect, and especially in areas like Cronulla, like there's a lot of light that you've got to pay attention to, and you want it to be appealing. People will pay for quality product there. But on the other side too, even though you want to push an architect to come up with some amazing things, it's still the structure of the building which can be saved on, how much steel is used, how many cantilevers, how much foundations used, what type of things that cost up, because you're going to make profit on it, you know.
But the other real critical part there is through that interview process, and you need to, like, you know, the builders and all the other professionals, the more you start to hear the same name, what that means to me is that, so then you talk to the builder, you talk to the architect, and they know everyone in council. They have a relationship with them.
They do, that's right.
The council then knows this person, and that they know what the council wants, because they've done it dozens of times, and they're doing some very high-end projects with high profile to the council that will set the stage for that suburb and have huge resale and really grow the community. So the council's very vested in supporting a person like that who knows what they want, and then they have rapport. So it's like, whereas the owner used, nobody that I've spoken to in the last few weeks has heard of this architect in the area. And it's like, well, no wonder.
And it's not that you can't use him, but it's safer.
It's much safer if you go with someone the council knows and recognizes, you know, and I came up with about 5 different names that top the charts in the area. And so, you know, you might go, this is a high-end project, I'll go with this guy who's up here. And the next one I'll go is sort of down here. So I'm going to go with this guy down here. And then you can sort of spread the love around a little bit and be working with 2 or 3 different architects. So one guy I think that I have is amazing in duplexes. The other guy is more, multi-dwelling. This other guy is more high-end, apartments and multi-dwelling, but has that name that would get that development through. So I've selected him for that project. Now, in a high-end sort of build in Cronulla, you don't want to sort of quibble about an extra 10 grand on the architectural bill, because you're talking about such much larger GRVs. When you're talking 20.
But you're happy. It's interesting, Cronulla, because if someone wants to work with you, that you can be working with them on a duplex, no problem, right? You can be working on the house or duplex or townhouse or flats. You know how to do all that. You got the team ready to do that.
Yep.
So then it comes down to the budget, right?
So if you have a property and you want to turn it into a duplex site, I can do all the analysis for you.
And you can work out first off whether it's profitable.
That's right. And if you're looking to, just move and you want to downsize and you want to decrease your land tax, well, we can go and look at, doing a splitter or something, right? Building you a brand new house, but now instead of having a 900 square meter block and paying, $20,000 a year in land tax, we'll split it in half, and we can get you some good, future returns on your land tax bill, but you'll have a brand new house, and then there'll be someone directly behind you. Or, I'm analyzing another site right now that's 9 units. I'm looking at, I just got an agreed sale yesterday on a 5 townhouse development in Caring-Bossell.
So let's talk a little bit about that too. So with the investors, wrap it up on this. So, Mike, when an investor works with you, when they say, hey, Mike, I want you to do the work and I'll supply the funds, you can help them not only find a property, but you can help them obviously prove to them whether it's going to work or not, whatever they're going to do on it. And then you've also got a bit of a knowledge behind the finance of it as well, right? You've got a team on that side of it as well. So really, when an investor comes to you, they've just got to be keen. They've got to have the right attitude. They've got to be ready. They've got to, you don't want to waste your time, because I can see that you do a lot of work. So the most important thing to you then is to make sure that investor is happy to go through the process and work out whether the finance they're qualified for, and then go through the process of being able to find the right property for them and work in a partnership with them, right? What do you want to achieve out of that partnership? Because you don't mind doing the work, right?
No, I mean, the work is the fun part for me in managing the projects, all the different people, all the relationships, and ultimately delivering a service, and then secondly, a product that we can sell in the market that will make the community proud. I mean, I'm working in the community I live in. So my prime directive here is for my investors, one of my purposes on this earth basin for me is to help people. Okay, so if I can help someone grow their wealth, if they can come to me and I can help them, develop something to a point, or we can do that jointly so that we both benefit, that's fantastic. And the second part is just improving the community. I mean, the Sutherland Shire has been around, for over 100 years. There's a lot of really old, dumpy homes in the area. I really just want to be part of bringing it back up into the 21st century and building some new homes and being part of they've got this whole ad campaign for Sydney at the moment, that they're redeveloping it and the new Sydney sort of thing. And I just want to be part of that.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. Now, so the type of things that you offer people, what does Phoenix Developments do offering to people? So one of the main things that you love doing is working with people who are financially ready and partnering with them to do a property development for them. What are the other things that you can do also?
So, we can do site acquisition on their behalf, full due diligence up front, analyzation for a fee. We'll do sourcing of properties for you.
Development applications.
Yep. So, and then if you have your own property and you want to develop it, you don't need help sourcing it, but you need someone to walk you through the whole process, I'll just do a project management fee for you, to take you through the whole DA process. Use my A team that I've found help you through the drawings and the prelim phase, the pre-DA meetings, the submission of the DA, all the way through to, you know, getting the DA approval. One of my other specialties in my other job is contract management. So, you know, dealing with the builder contracts, making sure that we're mitigating risk, understanding everything that's included and excluded, putting in late delivery clauses, understanding what incentive clauses can be there for them to accomplish work on time or early. All those sort of benefits.
That's what you want in any type of project management partner, so that they can handle the project and manage it through and consult you and consult other people. So it's not only about your relationship with a client that you partner with to go along this, but more importantly is your relationship with all the people involved that are going to be taking care of the project, right? That's just as important.
Absolutely. So because you're coming to me to take care of your project and care for it and hand it off to you at the end and deliver it to you, you need to have someone who's got that team, who's got that rapport, who can negotiate on your behalf, who understands contracts, who can dig into terms and conditions, who can read the fine print, who's very detail orientated, and at the end of the day can mitigate risk for you, the client, and or in the situation that I'm in right now, a joint venture, or for myself if I'm looking at taking a private loan in the finance world. So there's all different types of scenarios we can look at, and all different types of services. So if you're a landowner and you want to develop your land and you want to build a 9-unit block building and you want to just hold it, well, I can do all that for you. I can source that. I can source builders. I can
or even just simple duplexes, right?
Absolutely. Simple duplexes, just convert your land, or and I can take you through the whole process for a fee.
And the acquisitions is something that you'd be very good at now, because that's all you're ever looking at, the properties as you go along. Now, Mike, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks very much for your time today. I know that you're quite busy, but you schedule everything, right? So we schedule in this, so that's really good to have that opportunity to have a chat to you today. You know, I got a lot of respect for you because I've seen the way that you operate, and anyone that I see that's operating at a similar level to the way that I like people to operate, you know, I'm really interested in just the fashion of, I've learned things from you then. If I can see that you're operating the same with me, how do you qualify people? What have you found out? Then that's really good to be able to have that discussion with people that are in the industry in that sense. You know, I find that we can learn a lot off each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I'm learning more from you than at the moment, but, you know, I think, you know, some of the discussions we had today just around some of the private lending options that I'm looking at are certainly something that, you know, you're asking questions about. So yeah, it is a symbiotic relationship, but yeah, it's fantastic to be on board and part of this amazing tribe. So
thanks, Mike. Look, just to end it off here, your website's on that little link down there, so that's fine. So people just want to have a bit more of a chat or start a conversation with you. Very easy. It's very easy to find you and have that chat, right? You're happy to do that?
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thanks, guys.